In a political landscape that is constantly shifting, one thing has become crystal clear. Former President Donald Trump has a unique and often contradictory approach to leadership, especially when it comes to appointing individuals to his administration. On one hand, he defends those who have been embroiled in serious controversies, allegations, and scandals. On the other, he rejects individuals who are highly qualified and competent, simply because they don't fit into his narrow ideological mold. This has been most evident in the recent case of Chad Chronister, the sheriff of Hillsborough County, Florida, who was nominated by Trump to lead the Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, but withdrew from consideration amid significant pushback from the far-right MAGA wing of the Republican Party. What exactly led to this? What is the broader message about Trump's leadership and priorities? In this video, we'll dive into the reasons why the nomination of Chad Chronister failed, juxtapose it with Trump's defense of controversial figures like Pete Hegseth, and explore the underlying hypocrisy at play. We'll analyze how the Republican Party, particularly its MAGA wing, is quick to embrace figures with questionable backgrounds while rejecting individuals who represent competence and a broader, more inclusive view of society. Chad Chronister, a qualified nominee with broad support. Chad Chronister, a seasoned law enforcement professional, was nominated by Donald Trump to head the DEA. As the sheriff of Hillsborough County, Florida, Chronister had a track record of successfully leading a large, diverse police force and had earned respect for his commitment to both law enforcement and the community he served. His leadership style emphasized inclusivity, diversity, and public safety, values that resonated with many Floridians and beyond. Chronister's qualifications were clear, and his experience as sheriff made him an excellent candidate for the DEA, an agency responsible for enforcing drug laws across the United States. However, Chronister's nomination was met with swift and harsh resistance from the far-right MAGA faction within the Republican Party. The reason? Chronister's progressive stances on a number of issues, particularly his vocal support for LGBTQ+ rights and his participation in Pride events. In 2020, Chronister made headlines when he publicly supported the Tampa Pride parade, stating his office's commitment to diversity and inclusion. He was a vocal advocate for the LGBTQ+ community, sending a strong message of unity and equality. While such stances should be seen as a positive reflection of a leader's commitment to inclusivity and respect for all people, they were quickly branded as liberal or even wokes by Trump's most ardent supporters. In a political climate where many Republicans have embraced a more exclusionary, conservative stance, Chronister's support for diversity and inclusion became a major point of contention. The withdrawal, a result of MAGA's intolerance. As the backlash grew, Chronister ultimately decided to withdraw his name from consideration for the DEA role. In his statement, he expressed gratitude for the nomination but emphasized that he had important work left to do in Hillsborough County. This decision came after intense pressure from MAGA Republicans who were unwilling to support someone who supported the LGBTQ+ community and had implemented policies they considered too progressive. The withdrawal of Chronister's nomination revealed a troubling truth about the priorities of the Republican Party under Trump. When it comes to public office appointments, qualifications and competence take a back seat to ideological purity. Chad Chronister's qualifications and leadership ability were overshadowed by his progressive views on issues such as diversity, inclusion, and support for LGBTQ+ rights. For many MAGA Republicans, these were viewed as disqualifying factors, despite Chronister's proven track record as a law enforcement leader. The rejection of such a competent nominee raises questions about the GOP's commitment to effective governance. The party seems more concerned with adhering to a strict, often exclusionary ideological framework than choosing the best people for the job. The contradiction, defending scandals while rejecting competence. In stark contrast to the treatment of Chronister, Trump and his supporters have been quick to defend other controversial figures with far more questionable backgrounds. One glaring example is Pete Hegseth, who was tapped by Trump to serve as the Secretary of Defense. Despite numerous allegations against him, Including accusations of sexual assault and unethical behavior, Hegseth remained a favorite among Trump's allies. Even when faced with disturbing reports about his personal conduct, many MAGA Republicans defended Hegseth, downplaying the severity of the allegations or dismissing them outright. In a particularly revealing moment, Fox News personality Jason Miller came to Hegseth's defense, arguing that the allegations against him were inaccurate and not worth focusing on. This selective defense of individuals with dubious backgrounds exposes a troubling pattern within Trump's camp. There is an eagerness to defend those who align with the party's ideological stance, regardless of their personal failings, while rejecting individuals who possess the qualifications and experience to make a meaningful difference. Chad Chronister and COVID-19, the co-tyrant label. Another factor that contributed to Chronister's rejection by the MAGA wing of the Republican Party was his actions during the COVID-19 pandemic. Chronister was one of the law enforcement officers who enforced public health orders, including those that temporarily shut down businesses and restricted large gatherings. In 2020, during the height of the pandemic, Chronister made headlines for arresting a pastor, Dr. Ronald Howard Brown, who had defied local health orders by holding in-person church services. For many MAGA Republicans, Chronister's enforcement of these public health measures labeled him a co-tyrant and an enemy of personal freedoms. The far-right saw his actions as an overreach of government power, and it quickly became another point of contention in his nomination. This portrayal of Chronister as a COVID tyrant added fuel to the fire, making it clear that his political ideology and stance on public health policies were viewed as incompatible with the MAGA agenda. The greater hypocrisy, a party more focused on loyalty than competence. Chronister's experience highlights a larger issue within the Republican Party, the prioritization of loyalty to Trump and ideological purity over qualifications, competence, and the well-being of the American people. Time and again, we see Trump and his allies defending individuals with questionable records, people whose actions have raised concerns about ethics, integrity, and accountability. But when it comes to individuals like Chronister, who have spent their careers serving their communities with distinction and who represent a broader, more inclusive vision for America, they are discarded for not conforming to the narrow worldview of MAGA Republicans. This hypocrisy is evident not only in the rejection of Chronister, but in the party's continued defense of figures like Pete Hegseth, who are far less qualified and much more controversial. The message is clear. Qualifications and good governance matter less than loyalty to Trump and adherence to a specific ideological narrative. As the party's priorities shift further to the right, it becomes evident that competence is being sacrificed for the sake of ideological purity, and this could have long-term consequences for the future of the Republican Party. Chad Chronister's withdrawal from consideration for the DEA role is a stark example of the hypocrisy within the Republican Party under Donald Trump's influence. Despite being a qualified and respected law enforcement leader, Chronister's support for diversity, inclusion, and public health measures led to his rejection by the far-right MAGA wing. Meanwhile, figures like Pete Hegseth, despite facing serious allegations, continue to receive support from Trump and his allies. This contradiction reveals a troubling pattern in Trump's leadership. Personal loyalty and ideological alignment are prioritized over competence, ethics, and effective governance. As the GOP continues to move further right, the rejection of competent, qualified individuals in favor of ideological purity poses a significant risk to the party's future. It is crucial for both political leaders and voters to recognize the importance of competence, inclusivity, and effective leadership, rather than embracing individuals who simply fit the party's narrow ideological mold. The GOP must reconsider its priorities if it hopes to move forward in a way that serves all Americans and fosters a more inclusive, effective government.